welcome back to another episode of the Strong Family Project podcast. I'm Joe.
Welcome back to the Family Project podcast, where we guide you on the path to raising confident, independent, and resilient children in a strong family environment. I opened my drink and you started, and I was like, I have to just hold it open.
Yeah, here we go. I was traveling for work to speak at a conference, and we decided to take a break. First break we've taken since April holiday season, and big cliffhanger. Book will be coming out on Black Friday for you. The Strong Family. That
I'm very excited about it, especially when I was editing your part. It was like I was just reading a really great story.
Explain that to everyone.
No, editing is it's part of what I do.
It's one of Mel's specialties, so I appreciate it. A little bit about the butterfly effect, the little ripple effect of how one thing can affect other things. We're talking about a motorcycle accident. But here's why it's important. I was listening to a YouTube channel last week. A gentleman named The Fat Electrician tells a lot of and tells her story. And one was Cassius Clay, not Cassius Clay Muhammad Ali, but a gentleman who was 18, 20s, 30s. I thought I said 19 there because this was pre-Civil War. Go to a sermon that changed his mind, and he became a staunch abolitionist. And he tells a story how this gentleman Cassius went through life. His cousin Henry Clay gets into some big political influence with Abraham Lincoln, and they end up saying the issue on the Emancipation Proclamation being signed when it was. And it was just a ripple effect of this person walking in, seeing this event, and then changing the course of a lot of history as we know it. And so this is going to be on a much smaller level, but I wanted to just talk about how our decisions and actions.
I love that idea of the butterfly effect. And I think it's just important to have that mindset, because whenever you do something or don't do something, it does impact the people around you, around family. And we've become more and more aware over time, as we've created our values and lived by them, that the decisions we make or don't make affect the kids, no matter what maybe we thought we did it privately, or maybe we thought it's not a big deal, but these do affect our kids. Of like them just taking it on their own now. Like they maybe in school, I'll be there and watching Henry or Everett while I'm in their class, and the way they respond, that is a result of how we're doing things at home. So I think it's important to have that perspective that we don't just live in a bubble as individuals.
And so on Monday, we were headed down to Henry's basketball game after school. Mel's parents and Everett, our 5-year-old, is with us, and we start to go down this. Over the last couple years, I've been around an extraordinary amount of car accidents, and I've been through first aid CPR basic training when I was a trainer running a fitness company. That was part of our safety training, and then we'd have protocols out of it. I did the community emergency response training here for El Paso County that I've spoken about in the podcast before, and did wilderness first aid training, so I'd have some sort of skill set. So I'm driving the Cadillac, Mel's minivan, down to basketball game, and this person comes swerving in and out of traffic. I see him coming behind. No one else in the car is paying attention. I'm like, hey, look, here comes a motorcycle guy. And the guy goes zipping by. Everyone's like, whoa. Like no one heard my warnings. We're all in our own world. And he comes zipping by, and he weaves directly between myself and the fast lane. I'm in the slower lane, the cruising lane. He weaves in between, and he does it again to another car immediately in front of us. He gets upset that someone else is still in the fast lane. He looks over to them, a minivan, and tries to flipping him off, and gets angry at him for sitting in the fast lane, and this guy is going way too fast, in and out of traffic. The road takes a sharp curve to the left, and by the time he looks back forward, he's already heading towards the forest at a high rate of speed because he stopped to do that gesture and just missiled off the road on his motorcycle and into the trees. Is that about right?
Yeah. I mean, he hit a patch of dirt. He just wasn't turning enough, hit a patch of dirt, and then he just flew off, thank God, to the right and not into the road. But it was pretty wild. We see people driving like this a lot, and just for it to happen right in front of our faces. And you're right, there's a lack of awareness for anybody who's in the car other than the driver, even when I'm supposed to be paying attention as the passenger. But yeah, you described it well. He was upset, and he just lost control.
And so on a very surface level, we say, oh, the person made terrible decisions, got what he deserved, drove off the road, got in a big crash. That could be one interpretation, but there's a lot more being affected here. An example, first of all, he's riding next to at a high rate of speed, a minivan flipping it off for riding in the fast lane. By this person's gesture, see this person just rocket off into the woods. And who owns minivans? You think it's a single guy riding around a minivan? It might be, but probably not. After school hours, going to a game, it's probably a family in that minivan that he now impacted tremendously. There's one other car that saw it that was before us that continued driving. Then there was us and got out of the van. They're walking towards it. Now, later, Everett was in the back seat, so I see his little eyes looking out the back window. He told me that his, how do you phrase, his eyes were watering because he thought that man would have a lot of cuts. And so you think the perspective of a 5-year-old is he doesn't understand what emotional crying is that much. To him, it's just like, I'm crying. It's all lumped together. It's a noise. It's a whining noise. But this time his eyes watered and he couldn't figure out why, but he was having empathy for this person who just shot himself into the woods. And then he asked, why didn't others to have a serious conversation about him with something that we've taught here in the Strong Family Project is that you have to increase your skills. And sometimes if you don't have the skills or the ability to stop and help, sometimes it's better that you're not there because it's a liability. If there's a bunch of people panicking around that situation, it makes it tremendously worse. A calm mind is needed to handle that kind of situation. And it can't be panicked. It can't be low skilled. So there's a lesson for you just to take basic first aid, get some sort of skills to know what to do in case of emergency, work on your ability to be patient and calm. And so anyways, he shared that with me later. So he was affected by it. I walk over and I've seen a couple motorcycle accidents and a car rollover, and this was by far the worst that I've seen. And I'm thinking, and those people were hurt, and I was the first one there. They're dying, and I'm going to be the last person on earth that he's going to talk to. What am I going to say? And so I have to think about that a little bit as I walk from the van over. Were you going to say something?
I was going to reflect a little bit more on what Everett, I guess you're going to leave them at a cliffhanger there, but I just wanted to point out the fact that Everett brought this up later. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like we went back to the car and talked about it right there. It was mulling over in his mind for hours because this was
bedtime.
This was hours later after the game and everything, all the excitement of the game. Hours later that he then came to you at bedtime. It's almost like you do your own little evening debrief with him because after I give him a shower, he heads to you to say goodnight.
Strong Family Path that we explain and give away for free at strongfamilyproject.com on exactly what the path is. But we sit down and talk about these things intentionally.
So it's just for a quick hug. But today, something inside of him was able to open up to you and tell you that thing. And I think the reason I wanted to come back, the way things impact us is different than it impacts others. So I didn't think a lot about how it would impact Everett. Opener for me to realize, hey, we should probably check in with our kids, whatever age they are, because an experience could impact them. That family that got flipped off by that guy, mm-hmm. I would like to think that later on they almost debriefed as a family. Hey, how's everybody feeling about this? Sometimes one of the Everett almost had some practice in like emotional intelligence. Like we were able to talk about it and give a name to it and explain.
And so I walk over there thinking that he's going to be dead or dying. And by some miracle, he is standing up. He went on a patch of grass perfectly between two trees. He had been ejected from the motorcycle. Motorcycle got crushed by the tree, gas tank and everything got all crumbled up, slid into it and hit from the top. And the one wise thing that this person had done, despite all their errors, they had head-to-toe Kevlar, gloves on, helmet. Like this is top-of-the-line motorcycle rider gear on his little crotch rocket. And he decided to wear that. So that was at least a positive that I didn't have to go over and have a final conversation with him because that's where it would have likely gone because the other accidents I've seen are far less of a physical impact and far worse results. Somehow this guy got lucky. And you would expect it to be, 20-year-old? No, it was a mid-40-year-old guy wearing a little long hair. Oh, bro, like I just got that happened. I'm like, hey, you probably have some adrenaline going on right now. So let's slow down a little bit because he's trying to get his motorcycle up. Let's check head, neck area. No, I feel fine. He was still fuming about his wrecked motorcycle in the car. He didn't have a lot of, I would say, intelligence about him by obviously the decision making, but I also noticed he had a camera mount land on his helmet, so he's probably doing it for some sort of influencer impact of him video, like, look at me weaving in and out of cars, bam, there's a tree, like, what a loser. However, a very fortunate person, and now he's got a second chance, and maybe he can turn that around. I should say his actions showed loser behavior, and perhaps he's not. Perhaps he'll do something different and better. Now you don't have a motorcycle, so now you can't drive like that anymore because yours is crumpled up in a little ball.
Sure is. But going back to the butterfly effect, like you mentioned, it impacts you. And again, I'll make this about me for a minute. What I noticed is I need to work on my skill set, because honestly, and then you told me to call 911, so I did. But like, it didn't occur to me first. I'm almost embarrassed to say that.
No, it's helpful. It would not occur to me had I not seen other accidents. And so each time we're in one of these situations, I love what you're doing, which is trying to learn lessons out of it so that the next time it comes around, it's much more simpler to handle.
Yes, exactly. Or even, okay, so we have a lot of signs on the road here because it is a curvy mountain pass, and it'll say something about the weather or whatever the case may be. The day before it said, say no to road rage. And I'm like, oh, okay, like I get what that means, but I don't particularly engage in road rage. But then I saw it happen. I see the purpose of the signs, but it's a matter of, are we going to then actually have this experience and then do something with it? That you also had to come down from this adrenaline, how impactful that was for you, considering the fact that you might have been the last person he spoke to. Again, that didn't even occur to me. So just because we have our reaction to an event or a person or a scenario doesn't mean your experience of that was completely different than mine. And I think I want to get better at stopping and thinking. I think I do that really well with the kids, but in this scenario, like, I feel like it went over my head. And I'm glad that you later told me, like debriefed, quote unquote, with me, so I could see where you were at for an experience, because you don't wear it on your sleeve like some people might.
In the moment, can't. It's not.
Yeah, but
optional.
Even later when we were home.
Worse, yes. And so the story isn't really about motorcycle crashes and this person's road rage or anything like that. It's the takeaways that you have for you. Increase the communication you have around an event that could be traumatic to some. You might not think it's traumatic to you. And in that moment, I didn't play like, all right, I feel so bad, like I need to talk about this. No, I had to execute on what I had to execute to make sure it was a safe situation, to try to help this person's life who I thought might have lost it. And then had to go to a basketball game and cheer on my son. Then I got to come home, and then I decided it was time to think about it and reflect more. And then Mel and I had a conversation about it. But just thinking about the different ways and interpretations of a situation like Mel shared, open up the line of communications. Just because someone looks like they're fine, they are better at hiding it or more skilled at dealing with what's in front of them. And then they can.
To tie it back to the strong family path, we mentioned the evening debrief. We also have the family dinners together and the family meetings. So we create situations throughout every day and every week where we will have time to connect and talk. I think that's really important, because sometimes it's okay, we had this game, everybody gets home, grabs something to eat, goes to bed. If you have those, 10 minutes or whatever time a day where you get together, you can anticipate that's going to happen, that's a good time to check in. Because if you don't have that worked into your schedule on a daily or weekly basis, it's going to be really hard to have those debriefing moments where you might need to talk about it.
And so we're sharing this story. We're going to land the airplane now. It's a short episode. Here's what I hope you take away from it. Small or large situations can impact and cause a ripple effect on others. We're sitting here on the podcast talking about it, and perhaps someone will listen. So you know what? There's a basic first aid class. We're offering one at our training facilities, or we just did by the time this releases, and I told the story, encourage people to go to the class. Maybe someone takes that class, and maybe they're sitting at a dinner table and one of their children starts choking, and now they know what to do because they heard the story. Person's crash, they turned into something positive, got a skill, and helped in that situation. I had a brother that choked at a dinner table, and then they had to get reacted to. Hopefully you're hearing the stories and improve your skills before you have to and you're in that situation. And also a reminder to up the old family communication and try to squeeze as many lessons out of each situation as possible. Visit us at strongfamilyproject.com, where we have every step of the Strong Family Path for you.